My name is Rachel Morgan, and for 23 years I lived inside a gilded cage. I was the daughter of Richard Morgan, one of the wealthiest men in the city, but the luxury of the mansion felt less like a home and more like a carefully controlled exhibit. I craved reality, privacy, and most of all, anonymity. That's why, when I saw the simple torn piece of paper pinned to a worn-out board, college room for rent, quiet neighborhood, affordable, call Adam, it felt like a beacon. My classmates laughed at such postings, but my heart leaped. I was seeking an escape, and the idea of a cramped, genuine life was intoxicating. I dialed the number, feeling the thrill of making my first truly independent decision. The voice that answered, belonging to Adam Carter, was deep, tired, and cautious, reflecting the heavy heart with which he must have placed that notice. He was a 38-year-old widower, stretching a modest salary as an office clerk to cover bills and raise his spirited 8-year-old daughter, Emma. His house, tucked at the end of a narrow lane, was small, with creaking floors and peeling paint, carrying the palpable silence left by his late wife. Renting out the upper portion wasn't a choice for him. It was a necessity. When he opened the door, his dark hair was unkempt, his shirt sleeves rolled up, and his eyes held a careful kindness, the look of a father prioritizing safety above all else. "You're Rachel?" he asked, sizing me up, not with judgment, but with the necessary caution of a single parent. Before I could fully answer, a small figure peeked from behind his legs. Emma, with big, curious eyes, messy brown pigtails, and a stuffed rabbit clutched tightly. "Is she the one, Daddy?" she whispered loudly. I instantly crouched down to her level. "Hi there, I'm Rachel." She studied me for a long, honest moment, then grinned, issuing the only decree that mattered. "You can stay. You look nice." In that moment, the expensive sprawl of my father's mansion felt a million miles away, and for the first time, my secret felt safe. Upstairs, the room was exactly what I needed, modest, with bare walls and worn sheets. It was starkly plain compared to the polished marble and echoing hallways I was used to, but to me, it felt strangely perfect and wonderfully real. I set my suitcase down, my heart beating with relief. Adam stood in the doorway, his tone firm but fair. "Rent is due at the end of each month. I'll keep things fair, and if you need anything, just knock." I met his gaze, steady and calm, and whispered, "Thank you. I think this will work." I didn't tell him I could buy the building with a single swipe of a card. I didn't tell him my father would be furious. I was Rachel Morgan, a simple student, and that was exactly how I intended to stay. The next morning, the smell of pancakes drew me downstairs. I found Emma swinging her legs at the small kitchen table while Adam flipped cakes in an old, battle-scarred pan. "Good morning, Rachel," Emma chirped. Adam briefly glanced up, reminding me, "You don't have to come down, you know. Your portion has its own little kitchen, but I wasn't just there for convenience." "Yes, but I thought maybe I could help." Before Adam could protest, Emma hopped off her chair. "Can she help me with homework, Daddy, please?" I laughed softly, feeling the first thread of a genuine, simple bond weave itself into my isolated life. Over the next few days, I settled into an unexpected, comforting rhythm. Mornings were for college, afternoons were spent either reading or downstairs helping Emma with her schoolwork, and evenings often ended with me reading her bedtime stories when Adam returned late, tired from work. I watched him stand in the doorway, arms crossed, his face softened as he watched us. He never complained, but I knew he saw how Emma blossomed under the feminine warmth and attention I effortlessly provided, something he felt he couldn't replicate. Still, the sheer difference in our lives occasionally caused small cracks in my facade. Once, my phone, sleek and expensive, a gift from my father, lit up with dozens of frantic messages in a group chat titled Morgan Family Gala. I quickly silenced it, pretending it was nothing. Adam, ever observant, noticed the expense and the frantic energy of my secret digital life. Another time, when Emma asked if I'd ever been to a fancy restaurant, I smiled knowingly but quickly deflected, asking her instead for her favorite food, chocolate chip cookies. It was a constant balancing act, offering kindness while protecting the massive, delicate lie that was my identity, I began finding quiet, clandestine ways to help. I noticed how Adam poured the last drop of milk into Emma's cereal and filled his own cup with water, how he carefully stitched the soles of his old shoes, and how he always held his own worn coat over Emma's head in the rain, himself getting soaked. To me, these small details shouted Adam's hardship louder than any direct plea. I'd bring home expensive groceries and claim they were 2-for-1 deals. I'd slip a pair of new pencils into Emma's bag, claiming they were extras from college. He noticed. I knew he did, but he let the charade stand, perhaps because my help was offered with such respect, preserving his quiet pride. Late one night, Adam found me sitting on the porch staring up at the night sky. "You do a lot for us," he said, his voice low. My chest tightened. Well, Emma's like a little sister to me. He studied me intently. "You buy more than you should. Groceries, school supplies, even those fare tickets." He pressed me gently. I just wonder why. I couldn't tell him the truth, but I could speak the truth of my heart. I hesitated, then whispered, "Because sometimes giving feels better than receiving," before adding the deeper truth that lingered in my chest. I was looking for a place that feels like home. Adam didn't press, but his frown softened. The fragile threads of trust were weaving themselves into something neither wealth nor hardship could have ever bought. A week later, Adam's pride faced its ultimate test. Emma's shoes had worn thin, holes peeking through the soles. He sighed, planning to patch them again. I returned from college with a pair of bright new shoes, claiming a friend had bought the wrong size. Emma squealed, hugging me tightly. Adam wanted to protest, but Emma's joy silenced him. That night, sitting by his desk, I knew his emotions were tangled. He was a man who carried the weight of the world quietly. And here I was, his tenant, softening the edges of his hardship without demanding anything in return. He saw me as a kind student, but I was fast becoming an essential, deceptive part of their family. The atmosphere of ordinary warmth was brutally shattered on a quiet Sunday afternoon. Emma and I were drawing rainbows when a black, glossy luxury car rolled to a stop outside the house. Its tinted windows and commanding presence screamed, "Wrong neighborhood." Adam frowned, instantly tense. Before I could breathe, the car door opened, and a tall man in a tailored suit stepped out, his silver hair gleaming. My throat went dry. I knew that car. I knew that man. "Richard Morgan, Rachel." His voice cut through the air like a blade. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Adam stepped protectively in front of Emma, his posture tense. "Who are you?" My father's sharp gaze landed on Adam, then softened briefly on Emma, before settling on me. "I'm her father, and she has no business living in a place like this." Adam staggered back as if the floor had shifted beneath him. "Father," I confirmed, my guilt flashing in my eyes. Richard stepped closer, his voice heavy with authority. "Pack your things, Rachel. You're coming home. Enough of this charade." "Not yet," I insisted, my own voice trembling. Richard was incredulous. "You've been living in this place," he gestured with disdain. "With strangers? When you have everything waiting for you at home?" I stood my ground. "That's just walls and money. Here, I found something more." Emma tugged at my hand, whispering, "Don't go." My father's disapproval was a suffocating blanket. "This man can't provide what you need, Rachel. He can't give you the life you deserve." Adam's pride bristled. "I never claimed I could," he said firmly. I stepped between them, my resolution steady. "Dad, please, you don't understand. This family, Adam and Emma, they gave me something our mansion never could. Warmth, a sense of belonging." For a moment, my father faltered. The steel in his expression cracked. He had never heard me speak with such conviction. "Rachel, you're my daughter. Your place is with me." I met his eyes with quiet strength. "Maybe I am your daughter, but here, for the first time, I felt like a sister, like part of a family that didn't see me as a name or a fortune. Just me, but the conflict was far from over. That night, the quiet warmth I loved was replaced by a silence that pressed against the walls. Adam finally spoke, his voice low and steady. "Rachel, your father's right. You don't belong here." My eyes flashed with hurt. "Don't say that. I chose to be here with you, with Emma." He sighed, weary, but his pride was louder than his longing. "You deserve comfort, things I can't give you," I challenged him fiercely. "Do you think comfort matters more than love? Than laughter around a small dinner table?" He looked up at me, his dark eyes weary. "I can barely give Emma enough." Emma, sensing the finality, suddenly burst out crying, "But you give me everything, Daddy. And Rachel makes us happy. Please don't make her go." The next evening, Richard Morgan returned, expecting my bags to be packed. Instead, he found me sharing a simple meal of soup and bread with Adam and Emma. Emma was giggling, and Adam watched us with a quiet dignity Richard couldn't comprehend. Richard boomed, "Rachel, enough of this nonsense. Come home." But Adam stood, his jaw tight, his pride finally choosing my future over his own feelings. "He's right, Rachel," he said, forcing the words out like a knife. "I can't. You need to go with him. You'll have a future there." My future was my choice, and I shook my head fiercely. Then, Richard did the unexpected. He saw my defiance, Adam's dignity, and Emma's tear-streaked face. He saw that the love in this small, creaky house was the one treasure his fortune couldn't replicate. He exhaled slowly, his shoulders dropping. "All right," he said quietly. "If this is what you want, then yes, I won't force you. But allow me to support Emma's schooling. Consider it my way of thanking you for looking after Rachel." Adam hesitated, but when Emma's eyes lit up at the mention of school, he finally nodded. I smiled through tears, knowing my father had finally understood the meaning of a different kind of wealth. Life slowly settled into a new, complex rhythm. I continued my classes and still lived in the upper portion of the Carter home. Emma thrived. Adam's caution slowly melted away, and I found myself an indispensable, accepted part of their family. My presence was no longer a secret, but a quiet, powerful commitment. One evening, as the three of us sat down to dinner, Emma broke the silence. "This feels like forever, doesn't it?" Adam chuckled softly. I caught his gaze, and the gratitude he couldn't put into words, and the affection I couldn't yet confess spoke volumes. I simply smiled. The story ends with the quiet knowledge of true belonging. My father still visits, but he no longer argues. He looks through the window, no longer seeing a lonely daughter in a mansion, but a truly happy one in a small dining room. We clinked our glasses of water in a simple toast. No grand feast, no chandeliers, just warmth, laughter, and belonging. I finally realized the truth I had been chasing all along. Sometimes the richest treasures are not found in fortune, but in the hearts that willingly open their doors.